Okay, hello everybody. This is Dr. Francois again from Sri Lanka, and I am very happy today because I have someone that I like very much, my friend Sundar Ramanathan from Malaysia. And Sundar is an alumni from Pranic Healing Foundation, and he's a trainer, he's a pranic healer, he's an energy healing therapist, he's all that. He may talk to you about that today as well, but I have a very special set of questions. I believe that you are going to be surprised, but not so much, my dear Sundar, about my question, because the aspect that I want to cover today is not so much covered by the other guests of this YouTube channel. We are going to talk about the relationship between body, mind, spirit, and we are going to talk about the impact on our health of the emotions and how to get rid of them. And as I know, Sundar, you are one of the best to answer these questions. But first of all, Atma Namaste. Thank you so much to accept this invitation. Thank you. Right. So, Sundar, before we jump into that, talk a little bit about yourself. You started as in the world of business development, and you jumped directly into the World Pranic Healing Foundation. Who are you? Where do you come from? What are you doing? Explain us explain us what you are, who you are.
Thank you so much for that amazing intro, Francois. I'm also, wow, you know, I'm listening to my own story and thinking, oh
yes.
my God. So what happened was, I think for a lot of people who come into energy modalities, there was a point where life didn't follow the system that was set for them, or it didn't meet their expectations. And similar for me too. So I had a very difficult 20s, and there was a point in my life where everything I was told would work stopped working. So family wasn't around, friends weren't around, work wasn't going well. I didn't get help from anywhere. I prayed and prayed, and that didn't work too. So I had to make a choice in that moment of darkness. I had to make a choice, and I decided that nobody's coming to help. It's down to me. What do I choose to do? Do I want to be better or not? And I said, okay, I'm going to help myself and not wait for somebody to help me. So from that point, I started to become a little bit more egocentric and only believe in me. So I thought, how can I best prepare myself for the future if nobody is coming to help? And I think that was in my early 20s where I decided I must have a business so that when the business grows, it'll be able to take care of me. That was the idea of how I started business development. And from there, the first company I had, because I had no money, so the first company was an IT company, just got a laptop and we started. And from there, the next two companies as well, I was always in business. So after a certain point, my life became a little bit more stable, and I realized I had some wrong ideas in the beginning, you know, where, you know, I thought nobody came to help, God wasn't there. Actually, this is not really true. It just didn't work the way I expected it. So I had created some wrong ideas. And in my 30s, I realized that actually, so it took me about 10 years. Then I realized that actually I had the wrong expectations or the wrong idea of how the world works. So once I started to understand this, I had the good fortune of exploring meditation and energy healing, and that completely changed my life. So now it became my, I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn more. How does this work? What is this invisible metaphysics that affects the physical world? And from there, I entered pranic healing. I got trained by the World Pranic Healing Foundation in some of the more advanced courses, and now I'm a trainer myself.
Wow. So it means that you were your first patient in a way.
Yes.
You're the first person that was healed by yourself, right?
Yes.
Like many healers, we are all our first patients. So we are in a quest of finding some balance in our life, and we find what we need to have in order to heal ourselves. Is that correct?
That's true. That's true.
That is correct, right. Okay, so right now you explained me that you wanted to understand what's happening into the invisible world. What did you discover there? Tell me, what did you discover that is going into the invisible world? I suspect what you're going to tell us, but I don't want, I will pretend I know nothing about that. What's happening in the invisible world that it creates unhappy life, unbalanced life, unfocused life? What's going wrong or well?
Thank you for keeping this clean experience. So people hearing it for the first time. So the understanding was that if I wanted something, then I would go out and get it. But there are certain rules to this, right? So, for example, one of the things I said earlier is that I had no money. So I didn't do this. But one example of getting money is you could steal money, right? You could steal it and then you would have it. But then it doesn't make sense because there are certain laws as well. One of it is the law of karma. What you do to others will echo back and come back to you, right? So if I had stolen money, it might work for the short run, but what about the long run, when karma comes back? Because these laws exist for a reason. And, so that explanation of the invisible laws that ties the universe together, that wasn't really explained to me, or the information was not easily available at that time. So I realized then some of my actions had negative repercussions. And in pranic healing, there is an energy science where it explains certain things and allows it to become measurable. So it's no more an idea, it's no more philosophy. There is a bridge to understanding the invisible world, where you can learn to sense energy and then feel for what decision increases your energy, what decision reduces it. And then you make better choices.
Right. So we know that it's not true. I understand what's going on behind the scenes. So I will jump there. Our emotions, our thought forms are energy forms, right? And yes, when we maintain them, we are creating what I call the monster. We are feeding the negative thought forms. We are feeding the negative emotions, right? So I think that basically your work consists not only on cleaning and re-energizing these energy centers, as opposed to other pranic healers, but maintaining what our great grandmaster says, the mental hygiene. This is how he calls it, right? What is mental hygiene and how does it impact in our life?
Very good question, yes. So about mental hygiene, right? In pranic healing, one of the things that we learn is that in becoming a good healer, character building is necessary. So in short, it is actually about, having a clean energy body, which can be dirtied or with negative thoughts or negative ideas about certain things. So we don't necessarily know that we have negative ideas until we take some moment to do some inner reflection, some awareness. And when we know that, that's where this mental hygiene, we start to notice certain blocks that are preventing us from achieving certain things. Or if we actually break this down, it's all a matter of purity of energy, right? So this dirtiness in the mental aura and the mental body the energy that comes into it starts to also become like discolored. And then when you send that out, you don't have that force that pushes it forward because the energy is no longer pure. So mental hygiene is about removing those negative ideas, removing those negative thoughts, and then making yourself a purer channel so that you see things more accurately and you're able to express them more correctly as well.
Right. I used to say to my patient, and tell me if I'm wrong, but mental, I would say, thought forms resonates. It resonates through yourself. It resonates through the outer world. When it resonates through yourself, it recreates this mental thought, this thought form, and you feed it. And it becomes more big. It becomes like a monster. And then when this thought form resonates through the outer world, it attracts by echo, by resonance, the phenomenon that are connected to it. It's its vibrational signature. Am I correct when I say this? If I say,
100%.
I can't, I cannot, I am not good, everything in your life manifests as your thought form. Is that true?
Yeah, 100% true.
That's it. So this is how the law of attraction works, right?
Yes. So you're right about this. I think on a very black and white level, a lot of people see it as if you want something, then just say you want it. And, if you create this, like you were saying, I can't do this, I'm not good enough. They see it as black and white, where what I've noticed in my journey and also in myself, it's sometimes a lot of gray area in between. So at the same time, when we're trying to purify our thoughts, because the thoughts eventually manifest physically, I start to notice that a lot of people have been trained to ask for what they want, but those negative thoughts that have not been purified, they're still there, right? So what happens is they would create sentences like, I really want this job and I'm going to work for it, but this is the last time I make an application. They would immediately make a self-defeating thought on top of that. So they say what they want, so they create the positive vibration of what they want, and then immediately they create a negative vibration too. And I don't know why this is. Maybe it's a excuse so that they can say, oh, well, I knew I wasn't going to get it anyway. All these techniques, I tried, I practiced everything, but there's always a but at the end.
Yeah.
Because that clarity of thought comes from the mental purity that you were talking about earlier. And it's not so much, I want this. People have that challenge to say that I want this, I'm not going to stop until I get it, right? That's all you need, just the positive side. And then they come up with the negative side too. And then, it kind of cancels each other out and drowns out everything. So when we're talking about thought forms, of course, there is the reverse of this where, when we want to manifest something good, it requires a lot of positive thought. But similarly, also when we want to manifest something not so good, like if we're upset or angry with someone, it becomes really big. It becomes a monster, like you said.
Yeah, so, really, the monster.
Yeah,
very bad monster.
Yeah, and if you think about it, right, the same energy principles, the same science applies. When we're upset, when we're angry, we're so clear on that thought. In fact, we're so clear that we even convince other people. We talk to our friends, say, this person, like this, you agree with me, right? You feel my pain. And then you get another person to contribute to the thought, make it even bigger, even bigger. But we don't do this for positive thoughts. We never say that person is so bad, but they are also very well dressed. We never say this, right?
A well-dressed bad person.
Yeah, because nothing bad is completely bad. No bad person is completely bad, and no good person is completely good, right? But when we talk about the good things, we always add some disclaimers. When we talk about the bad things, we never put the good parts in. We just talk about the bad parts. And we convince others, and it becomes this big monster,
Yes.
We need to do this for positive thoughts.
Yes. We'll get to there very soon. But now I would like to understand the relationship between the thought forms and emotions, because negative thought forms are related to negative emotions as well. Anger and negative thought form about one person, 1 + 1 makes a huger monster. Then we are creating a bad background to attract the positive life to us. Is that?
Yeah, exactly. You're right. 1 + 1 in this case actually adds up to a bit more than 2, because you have a certain amount of energy to create something, and then you also add somebody else's energy, and it creates something like a momentum or a resonance effect. So what happens is that it also attracts other things that already pre-existed, and it starts to collect, and it gets bigger like this. So 1+1 actually creates something a bit bigger. And what we're trying to do in manifesting and bringing down this invisible science or invisible world into the visible, into the physical, is condensing large amounts of energy so that it can drop down and manifest physically, right? And this is where it comes to that part. It first starts with a thought, and then that thought becomes so clear, so big, then we emotionally start to invest in it. So once there is that emotional investment, things become a little bit heavier, right? They become more real. And then the physical action starts to form as well.
Right. So, and there is an impact of these negative thought forms, these negative emotions in our physical health also, right? Because as I said previously, we are talking about the concept of body, mind, spirit. I have a lot of patients that are physically ill, and their illnesses has, I would not say created by the negative thought forms and emotions, but I am tempted to, because for example, some diabetic patients have a lot of anger and stress. So can you explain us, how do you perceive the relationship between negative thought forms, negative emotions, and health?
Perfect. Very good example. About diabetes. So I think one universal feeling, this might not be a good one, but it will get the point across. One universal feeling about how negative emotions affects physical health is something quite simply as a breakup or a loss of a loved one, right? When someone goes through this process, physically, if you had a medical checkup, and you don't even have to do this, everybody knows the answer already. When you have a medical checkup, there is nothing wrong with the physical body, right? But if you talk to the person, this person is experiencing a certain amount of pain. And this pain cannot be seen in the body, but by their testimony, they are not in their perfect condition. So where does this pain exist, and how is it affecting the physical body? And then if we go a step further, this prolonged pain on an emotional level can condense even further and transfer to the physical level. So another good example of this, a simple one, is some people may have experienced it, is in extreme situations of stress, because the lower emotions are centered around this area, the extreme sensation of stress may even cause certain people to feel like vomiting, or they feel like certain discomfort in the stomach area, where maybe
Pain.
it's lunchtime
Pain.
and you don't even
pain.
Yeah. Pain, yes. In more extreme cases, even pain.
Yes.
So when we're talking
negative
about
emotion can stress your shoulder, then your cervicals. This is the case of many of my patients. Their cervicals are ruined, and they don't understand the relationship with this and their own stress. And when you're stressed or fear, you're tensing your muscle, and it goes there.
Exactly. So even with diabetes, right? Again, the certain negative emotions are stored, or lower emotions, I wouldn't say negative, lower emotions, they're stored in this area. And most of the major organs are also in this area. So it's very likely that this negative energy gets transferred to one of these physical parts, and or all of them, and they start to break down in their functions. So what's actually happening here is that the negative energy is being transferred to the physical organs, and the rate of function is reducing, because a lot of the energy is being used to repair the organs instead of running its functions that it's supposed to run. So we start to notice a decay in the physical organs, and then you may, depending on how the organ is weak or what the exact thought form or emotion is, it may present itself as diabetes or stomach ulcer, or stomach cancer in extreme cases. The science is a little bit deeper, but that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah. So there is a direct link between the emotions and the physical condition.
Health,
but right now, my main question is coming: how do we achieve to manage these things? But in theory, everything is easy. Just eliminate anger and you will be more happy, and that's it. It's finished. Thank you very much. How simple is that? But it's not. It is not simple, right? Eliminate that negative thought form and bingo, your life is solved and you're healthy and wealthy. Finish. Very, very easy. But it's not true. It's very, very, very challenging. Is it? It is.
Yes. So actually, both of the things you said has elements of truth. The first one is that just be happy, illuminate your anger, and let it go, and that's it. You'll be happy and healthy. That is, on a philosophical point of view, a bird's eye view. If you had summarized the entire experience, this is it. That's exactly it. Now, the problem with philosophy is that it's bird's eye view, right? You have to get down to the actual level where the soul or the body is experiencing the pain, and then start to remove the wrong ideas that had caused the pain in the first place. Once you remove this one by one, you start to open up this channel, and then healing begins. So
how do we do that? How do we do that? It's so difficult.
Yeah. So it starts with okay. Firstly, well, talk to someone. Don't try to do this on your own. You might go into this cycle where it becomes harder than it needs to be. So this is why we have friends and therapists and healers,
like you and
yes,
me,
like us. I think the first step is actually to ask yourself, or this is what I do for me, is to ask myself, why am I in this position? And remove the biasness of personal self. So when you try to see it from your point of view and you justify all the reasons of how this is not fair, how this should not be happening to me, right? Now try to take that same justification and try to see it from the other person's point of view. So sort of like walking a mile in the other person's shoe. What would have brought them to make this sort of decision? What is it that they're trying to communicate or trying to go through in their life that they had reacted in this way to make my life difficult or to make your life difficult? So when you can give yourself a second perspective on the same problem, you suddenly have more options of where the disconnect is between expectation and reality, right? And that's how you begin. So once you see this, it becomes a lot simpler.
It is a little bit like in NLP, which is another modality. When you have a role model that succeeded on what you want, then you can map the same behavior. Is that similar to this?
Very similar, yes.
So when you see someone that achieved it, you have better chances to understand how to achieve it yourself, right?
Yes. So the answers are actually all around us. I think the great thing in NLP is they actually give you the tools to get there, to get the map there. But you can also do this on your own, where you see someone who has something you like. I think even in there was this story in the Bhagavad Gita or something, about this. There was this deity called Hanuman, which is like a monkey god. And he was a very good disciple of his teacher. So he used to just look at his teacher and imitate the teacher. And then he became also a really great disciple. So that was the philosophy part of it, right? So for us, actually, it's not very different. If you see someone, like, let's say you want to be a prosperous person, right? And you want to emulate like Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, or Jeff Bezos, just read about them, see how they live their life, what is their principles, what's their thinking pattern, and how did they come to these conclusions, and then just follow in the same path, and you'll have the same results.
Yes, yes. Now is a very tricky question. Why is that? Why is it more difficult to remove negative emotion, negative thought form by ourselves as opposed to positive thought forms, positive emotion? Because it seems that it's more easy to keep them. Why are we so attracted by them? Why do we love them too much?
This is a very good question.
Do you have an answer?
um, I have an idea. I hope that it might help some people. It may be right, maybe appealing or not. So there is everything has time and place, right? Sometimes what we're trying to do, I think this comes from the soul perspective. For me, it comes from the perspective of the soul. The soul as well resides in a very pure place. And to learn certain lessons, it had to condense itself and incarnate into a physical form. This process is also quite difficult because certain things happen before the soul actually inhabits a physical vessel, a physical body. And in coming down, it's really, really hard. So once you get here, then there is also this amnesia where we forget a lot of things that we previously knew. We remember the essence of the lessons, but not the story. So once you get here, we're again trying to figure out life, right? So everybody from the time of birth, that's all we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out life. And a lot of times you're going to get knocked down. Life doesn't really give you a hint or a guidebook. It just knocks you down all the time. It's very easy to get bitter, to get upset, because at the level of, I would say this is going to a global perspective. At the level of the planet right now, everybody is in a state where they're thinking about getting more for themselves, protecting themselves, trying to build and accumulate certain things, instead of trying to help send more help outwards. So of course, there are a lot of people that are helping, and God bless them, and I'm not saying this. What I'm saying is that more people are just trying to make a life, and because they don't have the correct ideas or the correct explanation and perspective, they run into a lot of problems. So the first thing to do is to talk about your problems. But when we don't talk about it, or we're not shown how to talk about it in a constructive way, then it starts to become complaining, right? And if we never find a solution, these complaints just start to degrade even further. And like we talked about earlier, those thought forms grow. So you start to, I would say maybe like infect. You start to infect the next person and the next generation.
Right.
And we create more and more of this. So I think there is more abundance of negative thoughts. And this starts to grow, becomes a monster, and infects more people.
We are infected by them.
Yeah. But the soul is still continuing its journey. So there is a learning process. So it just takes a few people to wake up, to realize that, hey, you know what? There is a better explanation, a better perspective for this. And this is what healers are doing. This is what therapists are doing, and through different modalities. So once we have the idea, once the soul starts to learn as a collective, that there are more positive solutions, and this information starts to spread, then similarly, what was happening before, we would also start to attract more positive solutions, right? So to your question a little bit about why are we holding on to emotions so much, I think also stems from the fact that we are very social creatures and we need each other. So it's easier to connect on the level that everybody understands, which is emotions, right? And because the more abundant thought is the negative emotions, we tend to gravitate towards this.
Right, right. So this is something new for maybe some of the people in our audience, that our thought forms can infect our environment, as the negative emotion can also infect. Can you explain that process for the benefit of those that don't know that? How does it work?
Cool. So it's like this. Thought forms are they have two two functions, I would say, two ways of working. The first one, it's like a radio signal. So you remember, I think these days everything is online, but you know, if you remember, maybe in your car you have this radio where you can tune the station and look for a certain frequency. So thought forms work like this. They actually radiate out a certain frequency. So when you're around a certain person, you start to feel what vibrates through their aura. When you create a certain thought, you also affect your immediate surrounding to a certain extent. Now, you may experience this when you're, let's say, when you go to a temple, to a church, to a monastery, and you're next to a priest, a monk, ustad, you know, and you feel this soothing, calming, serene energy around them without them even saying anything. You already feel soothed and calm, right? That's the radiatory effect from their thoughts, from their aura. And similarly, if you went to, let's say, for example, you went to a nightclub, you know, and the mood was dancing, right? Just by being there, hearing the music, and being next to people who feel that way, you also suddenly have this feeling that you want to move your body, you know, you want to dance. You already have that feeling, even though this is not really what you're good at. You want to do it.
Right.
So just like this, negative thoughts, negative emotions also have a certain radius around the person that created it that kind of infects the people who are close to them.
So it is the same for negative emotion, thought forms and emotion. These are
Yes.
vibratory forms. Right. So we're getting there. How do we protect ourselves from that? Because we live into a very populous environment. There is a lot of people around us. And as you say, we are social animals, right? We live in a society. So are we going to get into the jungle to protect ourselves from that? Or what are we doing to protect ourselves? What is the recipe for getting protected from that? How do we do that?
This is very true. You know, so I think we're reaching an era or an age where people are actually becoming sensitive to energy without knowing about it yet or explaining it. So some people, especially you see this in more developed nations, where they start to describe themselves as, you know, being very sensitive to other people's feelings and thoughts. They use words like empath, or, you know, they say I'm an introvert, I'm very sensitive, so I need my alone time. You know, instead of running to the jungle, they kind of hide in their houses because they don't know how to protect themselves. So I would highly encourage learning one of these modalities, or pranic healing. So you learn how to, you can remove some of this from your system. Or what you can do is also through knowledge. Start to understand, instead of being a victim of circumstance, start to understand what is happening to you and why is this happening. When you have that knowledge, you can program yourself to separate what you want and what you don't want, and you can start to gravitate towards the positive things that you would like. So choose the friends that would encourage you to be successful. Choose the people who would encourage you to have healthier lifestyle, healthier habits.
It's a little bit like choosing the right role model, choosing the right person that achieved already what you did, and then map the same pattern. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. So that's with knowledge base, or if you you know, purely intellectual base. If you have certain access to healing techniques like NLP, like you mentioned, NLP, color therapy, pranic healing, I would recommend pranic healing.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. So if you have access to this and you want to do more for yourself, right? These are really simple solutions that can help you in like 5 minutes. You know, it doesn't take a long amount of time to clean yourself once you know what you're doing. So, but if you don't have this inclination yet, you can always do it through books, through knowledge. I would suggest do energy techniques. So much easier. Save yourself the trouble. You know,
yes, of course.
Yeah. Just pull out all this dirty stuff from your aura, and then you'll be back in shape, right? A lot faster.
Yes, because in pranic healing, we clean them, right? We are removing negative thought forms and negative emotion and so more, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Why some people are better than others to become happier and wealthier? How is that so, as opposed to other one? What is the reason behind that?
Oh wow, there's this is a lot of answers.
I told you there is very tricky questions here. Why are we are we born with some energy vibration, or we maybe there is a lot of answers to this very complicated question, but
Yeah.
what do you think?
Well, this is okay. Okay, maybe let's keep it simple first, and then we see if we can go a bit more. So I think the simple explanation is also access to information. So the first one is if you had people around you, your environment that was already developed, then you have good access to information, right? Either from your parents, from your libraries, from your friends. You know, they understood certain laws. So I'll give you a good example instead of just making this hypothetical. Here in Malaysia, we're multicultural, multi-faith. There's a lot of people, the majority of the races here are Indians, Chinese, and the native Malays, right? So some of this information about prosperity in the Chinese culture, and I think this is all over the world, is so well embedded in the language and in the practices that people don't even question it anymore. It's just that the culture has developed. For example, during Chinese New Year, the colors commonly associated with the New Year is red and gold or red and yellow, right? And in some teachings, we also know these are the colors for prosperity. So you see, even without having that information being given to you, it's already embedded in the culture. So if you have good access to information, you tend to also gravitate towards certain solutions that have already been digested and put forward for you.
Right.
Okay. So that's making it a bit more tangible. So same in other cultures too. Um, so that's about the prosperity part. About the healthier and happier, similarly as well, I think some things are also lessons to be learned. If we were given everything, uh, Earth is like a school, right? It's a school for the soul. So if we were given everything, then there was no necessity to learn anything. You know? Actually, if a lot of the best things in my life, and for you as well, you know, some of the best things is came from that hardship of having to
Yes.
learn something,
Yes.
having to go through a certain darkness, and then when you find the solution, you become the light to help others, right?
Yes.
So yeah, this is also, I think it's not always about who's happier, who's more prosperous. It's also about a training ground for you to develop the skills to help other people, to bring them up also, you know.
So
And
when you understand in yourself the reason why is that so, you are half the process, is it? When you understand the reason why you are in that dark spot, then you are halfway to the bright spot. Is that?
Yeah, exactly. So once you do the work to heal yourself, to find the answers, then you're, like you said, you're already halfway there. Now you just need to perfect it, and then you're all the way there.
It is very simple.
Yes, this is the simple explanation.
Yeah,
So
no, I
many
like
more
that. I
answers.
like that. It is interesting.
Yeah.
And since you talked about colors and culture, this is a question that I was not planning to have, but I'm interested in color therapy and why that? Why colors? And what do they do? What explanation can you give to the impact of colors and mood, colors and prosperity, colors and emotion, colors and thought forms, etc.? What are the relations? Because it doesn't come from my culture. You are Asian, I'm not. I'm North American, and in our culture there is nothing, right? So what's there?
Okay. Okay. So I think quite simply, this is still in the realm of physics, not even metaphysics. This is just simple physics that we learn in school. It can be related to this topic already. So very easy one, that everything vibrates on a certain level, right? So even sound is just a matter of frequency and volume, vibrations. Now, if we were to put this on a 2D paper or on a screen, these vibrations can, if you notice the vibration of certain colors, like the rainbow, when the rainbow passes through a certain medium, it splits into different colors depending on its frequency. So that frequency, certain vibrations also appear as colors when seen clairvoyantly. They appear as colors, or even when you hear them, right? So a simple example would be, today they have this amazing technology about sound. When you play certain music and you want the lights in the room to match the music, there is there are devices or software that can convert the vibrations of the sound, the frequency of the sound, into the frequency of the light. Right. It's actually the same vibration, just changed into visuals, right? That's all we're doing. We're taking vibration, that is invisible and making it visual. So this visual representation of a vibration comes out as colors, and certain colors are better suited to certain things. So for example, when we say something, so if you notice that when someone's very sincere, when you're very genuine, this is said with a lot of love, with a lot of sincerity. The way they say it is very different. Like, someone might say, Francois, I really love you. They wouldn't say it in an angry tone. They wouldn't say, hey, I really love you. Like, like they're screaming at you.
Angry manner.
Yeah. So even though the words are the same, that vibration, if you were to put it in a visual, in colors, maybe the first one with sincerity would come out in a more pinkish color. And the second one in a sharp tone might come out in a more darkish, reddish color, because of the way it's been put forward. So when it's just visualization of vibrations, that's the colors. So when we're trying to do certain things, you would notice that this information is prevalent in the physical world. If you think about medical care, for example, you notice the logos of hospitals and healthcare, they're always a certain color. The color is usually blue. And if you notice very successful companies like food chains, their logos are normally red, white, and yellow. Normally these three colors, right? Yeah. So, there is a certain color that affects that can accelerate, certain things.
Colors has properties. If we summarize, and vibrations has properties. Yeah. Is that so? Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Another tricky question for you, Sundar. When we are in our dark spot and we are about to shift into a brighter spot, when we are about to achieve our 50%, is there a point where there is a turning point, a switching point? Did you experience that personally? Did you see this place where it shifts from the darkness to the light, or is it something that is invisible and fluid? How do you see that? Is there a shifting point or there is none?
This is a very good question. Very, very good question. You're making me think about my experience too.
Yes, talk about yourself, because did you?
Yeah.
I would say myself, I could see that I've seen some in my own life. Did you experience that? Did you have a shifting point?
Many times, yes. Many different events. There was a point. I think coming back to the introduction of today, the first story, I didn't expect it to be embedded in that story actually, but it's there. There was a point where I said, I felt nobody was coming to help. No friends, no family, no money. And at that point, I thought even God had forsaken me. So I was in a very dark place and I had to make a decision. Am I going to help myself or not? I did stay in this point for some time before I had made the decision that I don't want to give up. I don't want to call it quits. If nobody comes, I'm doing it myself. That was a decision, a very clear decision I remember that I had made. And once I made that on a thought level, then I had brought it down to the emotional level, and all the work had got done from there to pull myself out of my darkness. I think there was some element of fluidity as well. Once the thought had been made, and it was clear that I wanted to go somewhere, I wanted to be somewhere. I'm not staying in this darkness. And then things kind of moves. Experiences came. Certain things worked out in a way that I couldn't have predicted. I think that fluidity was not in my control. But that was there. And yes, for future problems that I had as well, it did come to a certain point where it's kind of like a sinusoidal cycle. So you kind of go down and then you come up and then you go down again, right? So at that down point.
Oh no.
Yeah.
We go down again.
for a different reason, to become stronger. So at that point, I think at the lowest point, maybe you may not know. You see, when you're moving along this curve, you don't know when is the lowest point. You're just moving, right? So I think when you make that decision is when you decide to turn the curve upward, and yes. Yeah, I think there is a definitive point that you can, actually most people can, most successful people, when they recount their stories, one of the famous ones was Colonel Sanders from KFC. He had a very good life, and then a highway came and interrupted his business. He had to close down everything. There was a point where he said he wasn't giving up. He was going to sell his recipe for food, and that's KFC that we know today, right? Right. Everybody, I think it can be reduced to one point, yes.
Yes, I believe this point is the decision point, is it? When you take the decision, the moment you take the decision, your intention to change something, because you are in control of your life, you are actually building it. Is that so? Taking the decision would be, since you're talking, I myself reflect, and the moment it changes is the moment where you take that decision.
Yes, exactly. The moment you decide, I want a better life, that's when things start working for you.
Yeah. Deepak Chopra said something in one of his numerous books. It always stuck in my mind. He says about the universal law, one of them, he calls it the law of laziness. And he said, instead of making a strong effort, you have to be lazy. You have to stay and stick to what you think and believe, or have a strong intention and just let it go into the universe and keep feeding this intention instead of trying. What do you think of that? Do you like to be lazy? I like to be lazy very much.
I like this theory. I think it has very good marketing potential. It attracts people to
yes. Yes, of course.
Actually, I do believe in the essence of that lesson. I think in pranic healing, most of what I know is from Master Chua. So what Master Chua says is that it's the constancy. Sometimes, and I find this very common as well today, especially since I've been through the journey myself as an entrepreneur in a young age. A lot of people in their 20s, especially, or 30s, because they have higher energy levels and they're more active, they move so quickly, they don't stay long enough for the hard work to come back, right? So they try like a business or an idea or a technique. They try it for 1 year and then they give up. But actually, it takes maybe 3 to 5 years, just hypothetically. It might take 3 to 5 years for this to come back, because we're too used to the media telling us about stories that, oh, this person started a company in 1 month and they got a funding of 100 million. We have this unrealistic expectation that things are going to happen instantaneously. Actually, the process takes a few years. So there is this element of, just stay with it for a while. You've already planted the seeds. Give it a while for the tree to grow, So that constancy of hanging on to your idea, of staying with it for a little while. And, sometimes I say 3 to 5 years. There's a hero that I look up to. His name is Steve Harvey. He's a comedian. And for him, he said that one of his goals actually took him 28 years to materialize. And he stuck with it. He stuck with it for 28 years. So, and once, now he's doing really well for himself. But, the work he had put in, he just stick with it, Be a little bit lazy. Don't necessarily jump to new ideas all the time. Stick with it for a little while and give it chance to materialize.
Yes. The hard point is to know if it's the right or the wrong path. But I mean, when you think you have a good goal, we have to stick with that. And whatever universe is presenting us, there is waves, the curves that you're talking about, right? And the first thing you're going to get there, right? Is that the pattern that your life had? Up and down, and suddenly you achieved it.
Yes. Yes, if I look back, yes, it was up and down, and I achieved a lot of things I put my mind to. Only that when I was in the moment, I didn't know. I think most people, when you're in that moment, you didn't know you're on a down cycle. You didn't know you're onwards on an up cycle to achieve your goals. You just, but when you look back, it's very clear. It's very clear that yes, there was a turning point. I did the work. I stayed a while, and then it came true. Yeah, there was a turning point.
There was, of course, there was many, most probably more than just one.
Yes. I think in the moment it's hard to know.
You don't.
Yeah.
It's afterwards that you know it.
Yeah, it's like the stock market. You never know when is the top point, when to sell. It's at the bottom, or you don't know when's the bottom as well. But when you look at the history of the data, you're like, oh, so clear. You can see everything.
Yes. So it's having, that's a good insight. So it's having a macroscopic point of view as well as a microscopic point of view. You're facing the reality very near to it, and then take a zoom out and look at that point and balance your decision based on those two, the microscopic point of view and the macroscopic point of view, right?
Yes.
Very good. Sundar, what is your future? What do you want to do? You make so many things. Are you going to write a book? Are you going to make a documentary? Or what are you going to do? Because right now you are on the path of inspiring people so much with your thought. And right now you work with the Pranic Healing Foundation. So what are your future plans?
Wow. Thank you so much for asking me this. Yes. So just through my journey of darkness and light, I found it that, well, what else do I want in life? When I know that now I have the tools and the techniques to get whatever I want, the best way is to bring people with me, right? So I want to continue to inspire more people. I want to continue spreading the light, spreading the love. And I plan to do this through more meditations, more talks. So I'm also recording, actually at the moment now, I'm recording a version of meditation and how people can manifest their goals a little bit faster. So guiding them towards forgiveness, towards releasing that emotional stress. And so even if you don't know detailed and deep energy techniques, you can just follow this very simply and achieve your goals as well. No need to go spend a lot of time into figuring out life. Just get what you want right now, and then makes it easier to move forward. So that's one of the things I'm doing. And the second one is, I think there's a lot of amazing modalities out there. Pranic healing is one of the most structured that I've seen, and one of the easiest barriers to entry. You don't need a lot of experience. You don't need a lot of knowledge. Even if you cannot see or feel energy, you're able to produce results very quickly.
Yeah.
So I want to continue this as well. I want more people to have this tool in their toolbox, so that in case of emergency, in case of the best case scenario, you always have the tools that you can learn to help yourself. You can be self-reliant, and you can help those that you love as well. the joy in teaching some of my students, and some of them are moms, right? You know how moms are always very loving and want the best for their children in most cases. Sometimes there are just problems that actually, I'll bring up a very good example. My sister just went through this. She had a young baby, my nephew, and babies, when they're born, they're not used to getting food yet. Their system, that digestive system, is not fully developed. So he was having some stomach problems, and you can't really give them medicine or do surgery or injections, not at this
No.
age. So just with very simple, my sister was also getting a bit worried because the first child was normal, easy, right? Easy to handle. The second one, we didn't know what was the problem because only 2 weeks old. So very simple, like pranic healing techniques. I was doing it for him. My sister was doing it for him. And within like 2 to 3 weeks, he had learned to operate his digestive system, and then he was fine. The joy in that, in being able to do something just with your own ability and being able to just help a loved one. Yeah.
Yes.
There's no price for this. It's priceless.
Yes.
I want more people to have this ability to help themselves.
Yes, to share that wisdom and to share that capacity to simply heal people, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to continue doing pranic healing, teaching pranic healing, and also with more meditations on how to achieve your goals a lot faster.
Yes, yes. Something that you're good at, and we may conclude with this, is teaching forgiveness. And we didn't talk a lot about it today, but let's talk a little bit about that, because maybe it's a way to heal ourselves. Maybe some of negative emotions that we have and that cause some physical problem are caused by something that we are holding on. And is forgiveness a good way to give up these negative emotions and thought form?
Oh, yes, 100%, definitely. Forgiveness heals the soul. You see, when like we were talking about earlier, the macro perspective, when we look back into our lives, we were talking about negative thoughts, negative emotions. Now, all these things exist, but when we look at it from a bird's eye point of view, they are just events necessary to guide us into a certain path, just as a steering wheel. If we get attached and entangled with the event, we start to relive all the negative emotions. And all this does is it's like putting the brakes. It's just slowing you down. Just understand that you had gone through a period of darkness, and this had brought you to learn certain lessons and to improve yourself. You're now a stronger person because of it, right? So what you need to do is to forget unavoidably, there are going to be people involved. There are going to be events involved. Just let this go and just take the essence of the lesson, move forward. Now, a lot of people become bitter with the event. Sometimes you hear people, 40, 50 years later, still talking about what had happened in the past, and they haven't moved on. So what you're doing is you're spending your energy on things that have already finished, and you're not spending it on creating the future that you want, right? So by being able to forgive yourself and letting go of all these things, you move forward a lot faster. You become happier, you become healthier, you become more prosperous. Whatever it is that you want, it becomes faster and faster.
So the very simple lesson here is move on.
Yes, yes. The philosophy point of view. Yes.
Yes, and the macroscopic point of view is move on. Then
move on. Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah, microscopic is let me help you with this. Let me help you.
Of course. I feel already much better today. I don't know why. Maybe your smile radiates with us. You know that you have such a viral smile, contagious. So it already helps a lot of people. It helps me. Thank you for that.
Yes, laughter is the best medicine.
Yes, it does. Well, Sundar, that's all the time that we have together, and I am blessed, and I don't know how much to thank you for this very inspiring interview. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Francois. I also really enjoyed my time with you. Thank you for this beautiful opportunity.
Thank you.
And looking forward to more of your interviews and more of your sessions. I'm learning a lot too.
Yes, there will be. Follow us.
Yes, I am already. I subscribe and follow.
Very good.
You guys should too. Yes.
All right. So I hope to see you very soon, Sundar. Have a nice day.
Okay. See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.